Hi class, this video is going to run through exercise 17.4 of the Macmillan textbook, which asked us to consider the disposal of a non-current asset for cash using the straight line method of depreciation. This is going to require us completing the process of Happel to determine the profit or loss, but like always, let's read the question from start to finish before we do anything. And if you're working from home and working with me, you'll find this in your textbook of the Macmillan textbook on page 335 and the workbook page 304. So what is this question asking us? We are Ezard's Electricals and we have closed the books on 30th of June. And the business purchased on the 1st of July 2023 storage equipment for $8,000. So the historical cost is $8,000 of our storage equipment. The equipment had an estimated life of 5 years, after which it was expected to be sold for $1,000. So we have residual value of $1,000 and useful life of 5, historical cost of 8. And the management has decided to depreciate the asset using straight line method. On the 30th of June 2025, the owner decided to sell the equipment for $5,500 of cash. What is the question then asking us to do? On part A, prepare the general journals to complete the disposal of the equipment. So there's heaps of information going on, but we've got some things to work out. We're going to have to complete Happel to work out, to remove this old storage equipment from our books because it's been disposed of. The H equals historical cost, and we know our historical cost is $8,000. The P equals proceeds, and we know that we got $5,500 of cash. Where have I got that? Historical cost of $8,000. I've got rid of it for $5,500 of cash. The H equals accumulated depreciation, and this is the bit we're not sure of yet. So let's work this one out. We know that we're using straight line method, which means our depreciation per year equals historical cost minus residual value over life. And if we work this through, our historical cost is $8,000. Our residual value is $1,000. Where did I get this? It's expected to be sold for $1,000. And its useful life is 5. That means $7,000 divided by 5 is my expected depreciation expense per year. And that is $1,400 per year on straight line method. I'm expecting my asset to go down. How many years has occurred from when I bought it on the 1st of July to when I sold it 30th of June? They've been nice. They've given us 2 full years. 2 times 1,400 means our accumulated depreciation is $2,800. And if you've worked that out, you've actually done the hard part. We do have one more thing to do. Did I make a profit or loss? I thought I bought it, I bought it for $8,000 and it's gone down by $2,800 when I've getting rid of it. So I think it's worth, how much do I think it's worth? I think it's worth $5,200. What did I get rid of it for? I got rid of it for $5,500. So I have made a profit of $300. And that's the final answer. I've worked everything out. I'm now going to jump to my general journals. And I highly recommend that you write happy on the side of your paper, work these answers out, and then the actual doing your debits and credits is relatively simple. I'm going to remove in the H, I'm going to transfer the historical costs off my books. I originally recorded this storage equipment as a debit for $8,000. So to get rid of that $8,000 debit, I'm going to do a credit. And my asset here for the remainder of this is going to be called storage equipment. Now, what is my scorecard? And I did this, apologies, on the 30th of June. What's my scorecard account that I do this? I always call this my disposal of asset account. So disposal of asset. My asset is storage of equipment. So my ledger, that is my temporary account that works out the profit or loss here, is disposal of storage equipment. And we can do a narration, something along the lines of transfer of historical cost of asset, and you would not abbreviate that. I'm then going to also on the 30th of June remove my, and apologies, that's also $8,000. Remove the accumulated depreciation from my books because I'm removing all evidence of my asset. Accumulated depreciation was $2,800. So I know my debit and credits are $2,800. And I know that was originally reducing my assets via a credit. So to remove this from my books, I'm going to do this as a debit now to make my debits and credits balance. So it's going to be accumulated depreciation of storage equipment. And it can get a bit tedious writing these long words out. And this also goes to my temporary account disposal of storage equipment, which is my scorecard. And what am I doing here? I'm doing transfer of accumulated depreciation of asset. I then move to also the 30th of June to record the proceeds. This is not where we're transferring, we're recognizing something has happened on the 30th of June. What happened? I received $5,500 of cash. So my asset cash goes up. And this is also part of my scorecard to work out my disposal of storage equipment and ultimately my profit or loss. $5,500. So this narration is a proceeds, and we don't need to say the type because I've got my ledger of cash, proceeds from disposal of storage equipment. And I'm just moving there, which I shouldn't, into my debit and credit space to save a bit of space. Finally, on the 30th of June, I need to work out my profit or loss. And we've worked it out, but let's take a step. Let's have a look at it. My disposal of storage account is where I work out and just double check I've got it right. I've done a debit of $8,000, a credit of $2,800, and a credit of $5,500. If I add these up, my debits equal $8,000 and my credits equal $8,300. And this is a temporary account. It must balance at the end. So the only way for my disposal of storage account, disposal of storage equipment to balance is to do a debit of $300. So I'm going to do that. And if we think about Paler, which I always forget to do at the start, but is an important thing to understand and really your cheat sheet in accounting, particularly how I teach it, have I created revenue or expense? I need to do a credit. I need to do a credit to make my debits or credits balance here. And I only have the option of revenue or expenses. And it's all balancing out. I've got to do a credit. Credits are revenue when they increase, and I know that I made a profit. So what am I going to call this ledger that records this revenue that increases my profit? I'm going to call it profit on disposal, and it is the disposal of storage equipment. And now I've done on my ledgers, what is this going to be in narration? It can just be as simple as transfer of profit on disposal. And guys, that is how you complete and tick off all your general journal entries. Part B asks us to consider what our ledger accounts look like. Part C asks us to, and we'll go through our ledgers in a second. Part C asks us to think, was this a profit or loss? Now, clearly, we've already done this in working out our profit here, and part D asks to explain why it was a profit or loss. We can say, to cover both off, so C and D, it was profit as we have earned revenue from the disposal. Something along those lines would be an absolutely valid way to respond to that, and that would be totally fine. We can say a profit on disposal of $300 was earned. The profit on disposal occurred because the equipment was over depreciated. We thought it should have been depreciated by $2,800, but that was too much. This happens when the estimated useful life or residual value have been understated. And these are some important terms to use. But let's now look at our ledgers. And also importantly, before we get to that, have a quick look at our general journal to tick that off that you've done it correctly, and this is an easier word to write. You're then going to pick all this information up, our perfect instructions, beg your pardon, to do our ledgers. The one that I'm going to really focus on is our disposal of storage equipment. Our disposal of storage equipment is our scorecard. I always want you to think of this as our scorecard. And our credits are on our right, debits on our left. So let's run through all of the ledgers that relate to disposal of storage equipment. Disposal of storage equipment involved an $8,000 debit, and our narration here is our cross-reference is storage equipment, because that's the other side of our transaction. Disposal of storage equipment also involves a $2,800 credit, so we're picking up the instructions and following them. And this cross-reference here is accumulated depreciation of storage equipment. This was the transfer of historical cost and the transfer of accumulated depreciation. We then have our disposal of storage equipment, again a credit, and this time it's because of the proceeds, so our cross-reference is cash at bank, and you can see this is in our credit section of our ledger. And this is where we stopped previously and looked at it, and if we added it up there, you would see that our ledger on our debits was 8,000, and our credits were 8,300. Now clearly they need to balance, and the only way we can do that is have a $300 debit. And this is where our $300 debit comes in here, and our cross-reference was our profit or revenue, profit on disposal of storage equipment. And that's how you would pick up your general journal to update your ledgers for disposal, which is a common exam question, using your cross-reference understanding, And you don't need to have done the general journal. You can obviously be doing this on a scrap bit of paper using the HAPL process that we've discussed before. HAPL being historical cost, accumulated depreciation, your proceeds, and did we make a profit or loss. All the other ledgers, I'm going to get you to pause the video and have a good look. This is all we are doing is ticking off the other parts that we haven't. Storage equipment is going to be done as a credit, and you can see it involves there. Accumulated depreciation has clearly been involved each year, and we are closing it, so $1,400 a year. And accumulated depreciation of the storage equipment is the running tally. And guys, that is how you complete a general journal, general ledger calculation and reporting of disposal of a non-current asset that involve cash as the proceeds. Now's the time to pause, have a look at your journal and ledgers, follow the process to really build and consolidate your understanding of this complicated but important process.